For the longest time, I thought being kind to everyone was the right thing to do. Smile more, say yes, be the nice girl, be likable, but let me tell you something. Being kind to everyone doesn't mean being kind to yourself. Somewhere along the way, we confuse kindness with people-pleasing. We confuse respect with silence. We keep giving pieces of ourselves away just to make others comfortable. But today, I'm done with that. This isn't a call to be rude. This is a call to be real, to protect your energy, to stand up, show up, and stop watering dead plants. So if you're someone who's tired of always being the go-to, the reliable one, the always there person for everyone but yourself, then this message is for you. It's time to stop being kind to everyone, because not everyone deserves your kindness. Protecting your peace is one of the most powerful yet underrated acts of self-respect. In a world that constantly demands your time, attention, and emotional labor, learning to guard your inner calm isn't just important, it's essential. You see, we often grow up being taught to be accommodating, to keep the peace even if it means sacrificing our own. We're told that being agreeable is polite, that keeping quiet is graceful, and that saying yes makes us good people, but no one ever tells us what it costs. It costs clarity, it costs confidence, it costs your sense of self. Protecting your peace is not about being rude or shutting the world out. It's about drawing the line between what feeds your soul and what drains it. It's about recognizing the people, the habits, and the environments that leave you feeling exhausted, small, or unseen, and choosing to walk away from them unapologetically. Because the truth is, no matter how strong you are, you're not built to carry everything. And you shouldn't have to. The pressure to always be available, always be kind, always be understanding can become a silent killer of your joy. The more you give into it, the more you dilute yourself. And before you know it, you're living a version of your life that feels like it belongs to everyone but you. You start saying yes to things you don't believe in. You let people stay longer than they deserve. You ignore your intuition because you're afraid of being misunderstood. You let your empathy override your instincts. And every time you do, you chip away at your peace, little by little. But here's the truth. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Peace is not passive. It doesn't just happen. It's a choice you have to make every single day. It takes guts to protect it. It means saying no when it's inconvenient. It means letting people down who were never really lifting you up. It means being seen as difficult or too much just because you refuse to bend anymore. It means prioritizing rest, real rest, not just sleep, but mental stillness. It means guarding your mornings, your mind, your space. It means not letting someone else's chaos invade your calm. And sometimes it means walking away from people who once meant everything to you, but now only bring confusion and noise. You'll notice that the more you protect your peace, the more you start to feel whole again. The more honest your decisions become. You stop performing, you stop explaining, you stop chasing validation. And slowly, life begins to feel lighter, not because the weight disappeared, but because you stopped carrying what was never yours. There will be people who don't understand this version of you. They'll call you selfish, distant, cold. That's fine, let them. Because their approval is not the price of your peace. You weren't put on this earth to be liked by everyone. You were put here to live your truth. And living your truth requires silence, space, and the courage to say, I choose me. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. That's a hard truth to swallow when you've spent your life trying to be everything for everyone. But the reality is, your time, your presence, your emotional availability, they are valuable. They are currency. And if you keep handing them out freely to everyone who asks, you'll eventually end up bankrupt emotionally and mentally. We often fall into the trap of thinking that being available all the time is what makes us good people. That returning every message, attending every event, helping every friend in crisis, or giving every ounce of our attention to those around us somehow makes us worthy. But the problem is, not everyone reciprocates that energy. Not everyone honors your effort. Some just take. They take until there's nothing left. They take because they know you'll keep giving. And they take because they've learned that your kindness comes without boundaries. When you allow everyone access to your energy, you lose the power of discernment. You forget to check if the people you're investing in are pouring back into you. You forget that your emotional resources are limited, not because you're weak, but because you're human. You can't carry the weight of other people's lives without eventually feeling crushed under your own. There is no glory in being the one who's always there if no one is ever there for you. It's not your job to heal everyone. It's not your job to be the fixer, the therapist, the problem solver in every situation. Sometimes the best thing you can do is step back and let people figure things out on their own. Because if you're constantly throwing your energy into people who don't want to change, who don't respect your time, who only show up when they need something, you're not helping them grow. You're enabling their patterns while draining your own spirit. And let's not ignore the emotional toll. Giving your energy to the wrong people often leaves you feeling confused, depleted, and questioning your worth. You start doubting yourself. You internalize their chaos. You absorb their projections. And suddenly your mood, your focus, your peace are no longer yours. They belong to everyone else. That's not love, that's not loyalty, that's emotional slavery dressed up as compassion. You have to remember that your energy is sacred. It's what drives your creativity, your clarity, your joy, your presence. When you protect it, you function better. You make clearer decisions, you attract better people, you start to feel aligned instead of scattered. But it all begins with learning to say no, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's telling yourself, I matter too. And no, you don't owe anyone constant access just because you were once close or because they're used to having you on speed dial. Relationships evolve, people grow. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is limit your exposure to those who constantly drain you without offering anything back. You're allowed to be unavailable. You're allowed to protect your space. You're allowed to put yourself first. When you truly start valuing your energy, you begin to realize how much of it was wasted on meaningless conversations, on people who didn't see you, on situations that didn't deserve your emotional investment. You become more selective. Not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. You understand that it's not about being cold or distant. It's about recognizing that not everyone is meant to have a front row seat in your life. Some people are just background noise, and that's exactly where they belong. Being kind shouldn't come at the cost of your boundaries. Kindness is a beautiful trait, one that brings light, healing, and connection into the world. But when it's unchecked, when it goes unprotected by boundaries, it stops being kindness and starts becoming self-betrayal. There's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. And that line gets blurry when we're afraid to speak up, afraid to disappoint, or afraid to be labeled as selfish. Many people have been conditioned to believe that setting boundaries is an act of cruelty, or that it somehow makes you less compassionate. We're taught to equate kindness with sacrifice, that in order to be a good person, we have to give, bend, and stretch ourselves thin. But what's the point of giving endlessly if it leaves you empty? What's the point of helping others if it keeps hurting you? Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They don't shut people out, they simply keep the wrong energy from coming in. They're the way you teach others how to treat you. And more importantly, they're the way you protect your own emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Because here's the truth. You can't be genuinely kind if you're constantly exhausted, resentful, or burnt out. That's not kindness. That's survival. People often misunderstand boundaries as hostility or rejection, especially if they're used to you always saying yes. But the discomfort that comes with setting a boundary is temporary. The damage of living without them is long-term. Every time you allow someone to push past your limits just to keep the peace, you teach yourself that your needs don't matter. Every time you smile through discomfort or bite your tongue just to avoid conflict, you're silencing your truth to make others comfortable. There is nothing noble about abandoning yourself. You can be kind and still say no. You can be kind and still call out disrespect. You can be kind and still walk away from situations or people that harm your peace. In fact, kindness rooted in self-respect is the most powerful kind. It's the type that doesn't need validation, doesn't seek approval, and doesn't come from guilt. It comes from a place of wholeness. a place where your compassion is intentional, not compulsive. The fear of being seen as mean or difficult is what often holds people back from enforcing their boundaries. But ask yourself, would you rather be misunderstood for a moment or misunderstood for a lifetime? Because the longer you let people cross your boundaries under the guise of kindness, the more you lose your voice. And once your voice is gone, your identity starts to fade with it. You deserve to show up fully in your life, unapologetically. You deserve relationships that honor your limits, that don't make you feel guilty for saying no, that don't expect your kindness to come with silence. And you deserve to give yourself the same grace you offer everyone else, because real kindness includes you too. When you start to prioritize your boundaries, you'll notice your kindness becomes stronger, more genuine, more impactful. It won't come from a place of fear or obligation, but from truth. And truth, when spoken with love and confidence, is the highest form of kindness there is. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. It sounds simple, but for so many people, this behavior has become second nature. From a young age, especially for women and people raised in environments where humility is equated with silence, we're taught to tone ourselves down, don't speak too loud, don't take up too much space, don't be too confident, don't outshine anyone. It starts subtly. Maybe someone told you you were too much, or that you intimidated others. And so, little by little, you start to shrink. You start questioning whether your ambition is too bold. You begin dialing down your personality to avoid making others uncomfortable. You dim your light just enough so you don't cast a shadow on someone else. And every time you do it, you think you're being considerate. You think you're doing the right thing, but all you're really doing is betraying the fullness of who you are. And over time, that betrayal adds up. There's a difference between humility and hiding. Humility says, I'm aware of my strengths, but I don't need to boast. Hiding says, I'm afraid to show my strengths because others might not like it. The latter is fear disguised as kindness. And the more you do it, the more you lose touch with your own voice, to say what you want without watering it down. You are not responsible for managing other people's insecurities. It is not your job to make sure they feel big by making yourself small. If someone feels threatened by your light, that's their work to do, not yours. And yet so many people live their entire lives trying to avoid being too much for someone else. But have you ever stopped to ask, what if I'm actually just enough for me? Every time you shrink, you suppress your ideas in meetings, your opinions in conversations, your dreams in relationships. You say less, do less, ask for less, all because you're afraid of taking up space. But you were never meant to be small. You were never meant to be quiet when your soul wants to speak loudly. Your dreams, your personality, your presence, none of it is accidental, none of it is too much. The world needs people who are unapologetically themselves, not filtered down versions made palatable for others. There is power in walking into a room and not apologizing for your presence. There is strength in speaking your mind without softening your truth to make it easier to digest. And there is beauty in being the person who no longer shrinks. Because when you stop doing that, something incredible happens. You give others permission to expand too. Your boldness becomes contagious. Your authenticity becomes an invitation. People feel more free around you because they can sense that you've freed yourself. That's the thing about authenticity. It disrupts, it challenges the status quo. It makes people uncomfortable sometimes, especially those who benefit from you staying small. But that's not a reason to play it safe. That's a reason to go even louder. Because the people who truly belong in your life, in your corner, will never be intimidated by your fullness. They'll celebrate it. They'll match it. They'll rise to meet it. You owe it to yourself to live fully, not fractionally, You owe it to the younger version of you who once felt like they had to shrink to fit in. You owe it to your future self who's waiting for you to stop holding back. And most importantly, you owe it to the world because someone out there is waiting to be inspired by your unfiltered, unshrinkable, unstoppable truth. Your worth isn't measured by how much you tolerate. But for a long time, many of us have believed the opposite. We're taught that being strong means being able to endure, that being loving means always being patient, and that being good means never walking away. We wear our suffering like a badge of honor, as if staying silent through disrespect somehow makes us noble, as if putting up with poor behavior is proof of our loyalty or strength. But endurance is not the same as self-worth. Tolerating mistreatment, neglect, or emotional inconsistency doesn't make you a better person. It just makes you someone who's slowly forgetting what they deserve. Somewhere along the way, you were conditioned to believe that the more you can handle, the more valuable you are. That taking pain without protest is a sign of grace. But it's not. It's a sign that you've been made to believe your needs are secondary, your boundaries are negotiable, and your voice doesn't matter. There's nothing admirable about putting yourself last. There's nothing empowering about swallowing your feelings to avoid confrontation. And there's absolutely nothing healthy about staying in spaces that shrink you just so you can prove your loyalty to people who wouldn't do the same for you. You are not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag. You are not here to constantly explain your worth to people who don't want to see it. The more you tolerate, the more people believe they can get away with giving you less. And not because they're inherently bad, but because you've shown them that your line keeps moving. Every time you stay quiet when you should speak up, every time you excuse behavior that disrespects you, you send a message, one that says, I'll take it, I'll deal with it, I'll adjust. And they keep adjusting too, downward. Tolerance becomes a trap when it's driven by fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being liked, fear of being called difficult. So instead of demanding what we truly want, we lower our standards. We settle, we rationalize, we start accepting bare minimums and calling them love, attention, or friendship. But deep down, we know something's missing, we know we're shrinking, we just convince ourselves it's the price we have to pay to stay connected. But connection without respect is not real connection, and love without boundaries is not love. It's dependency. Your ability to walk away, to say this is not enough, to honor your own standards is where your real strength lies. That's what self-worth looks like in action. It's not about ego, it's not about being demanding, it's about understanding that your time, your energy, your emotional capacity are not infinite, and they shouldn't be spent proving yourself to people who refuse to value you. It's okay to say, I don't deserve this. It's okay to walk away from relationships, jobs, friendships, and even family dynamics that constantly ask you to tolerate what makes you feel small. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because once you stop measuring your worth by how much you can put up with, you start making room for what actually nourishes you. You start attracting people who see your strength in your standards, not your silence. You begin showing up differently, more grounded, more clear, more powerful. You no longer feel the need to bend yourself backwards just to earn love or respect. You stop waiting for people to change and start choosing what you no longer accept. And in that choice, you take back control. You reclaim your power. You redefine what it means to be strong, not as someone who tolerates everything, but as someone who finally says, this is enough, and means it. So here's the truth. You were not put on this earth to be liked by everyone. You were not born to dim your light so others can shine. You are not here to break yourself into pieces just to keep the peace. Kindness is beautiful, but it is not a license for self-abandonment. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Set boundaries like your life depends on it, because it does. And stop calling it strength every time you tolerate what's slowly breaking you. The world doesn't need more polite, agreeable, watered-down versions of people. It needs you, the real you. Loud, soft, bold, quiet, whatever you are, unapologetically. Stop being kind to everyone. Be kind to you first. That's not selfish. That's revolutionary.